Well, thanks for staying with us this afternoon. First, our Fitch Solutions has revised Ghana's growth rate to 2.6% in 2022 from its earlier forecast of 4.4%. This is far lower than the projections by the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. Here's more from Fitch Solutions' update on sub-Saharan Africa economies for the first half of this year. The research arm of ratings agency Fitch is attributing this to rising inflation, currency weakness, Russia's war on Ukraine, among other factors, which it believes will erode the purchasing power of consumers and affect the profit margins of businesses. Given an update on sub-Saharan Africa economies for the first half of this year, country risk analyst at Fitch Solutions Mike Groninger said they expect the Ghanaian economy to expand to 4.9% in 2023. Overall, Fitch Solutions forecasts the Ghanaian economy to post real growth of 2.6% in 2022, after which it will accelerate to 4.9% in 2023, whereas the slow growth rate, especially for 2022, is in a decade. Fitch believes the economy will face pretty significant challenges in the short term. Mr. Groninger also expressed worry about declining consumer confidence. Another important challenge the Ghanaian economy is facing is weak fiscal condition. The country's position has deteriorated pretty significantly over the past 2 years, mostly due to COVID-19 pandemic. Government had to borrow from international capital markets. Mr. Groninger says this is not the case now, but the debt has gone up to unsustainable levels. All right, now turning to some other story we're following for you. Ghana's international gross reserves has declined from $8.1 billion in May 2022 to $7.6 billion ending June 2022. This is based on data from Bank of Ghana seen by Joy Business, which shows that the reserves cover 3.4 months of import cover. Now, this information coming after the Finance Committee of Parliament a report from them approving the $750 million loan between Ghana and Afrexim Bank put the reserves at $3 billion from an initial position of $9 billion. Now, we expect the chairman of the Finance Committee of Parliament, Kwawu, to make a statement in the House today making that correction. But Joy Business Assistant Editor George Rafi joins me in the studio with some more on this. Just before we talk about this, I'm just monitoring a report from Kwawu in Parliament. You're trying to reach him. I think that the chairman of the Finance Committee of Parliament has attempted to make that correction on the floor of the House. But question though, how did they get this wrong?
That's the question that we're all asking ourselves. And the institution to get this data from has to do with the Bank of Ghana. Now, if you go through the document that was approved by the Finance Committee with respect to this loan, there was a portion that they quote the Finance Minister in trying to, the importance of this facility. And Daryl, I would just like to read for the benefit of our viewers, it said that these challenges have further exacerbated the rapidly dwindling reserves of the Bank of Ghana, which has declined from $9 billion to about $3 billion. Now, this was a statement that they are attributing to the Finance Minister. We don't know whether it was gross international reserves or was our net reserves. We don't know whether it was as at the end of June, May, or even the timeline. So everybody was asking themselves this question, that what are they talking about? Because the last time that the Bank of Ghana released their data, which was April, and then we're looking at somewhere around in the 8 billion figure. And looking at how the Bank of Ghana itself has been very conservative in terms of how they released the dollars onto the market, we're all expecting that we wouldn't reach this position. So it sent some waves to the market and even hit our currency that we understand. So everybody was asking themselves, what is this committee talking about in terms of this? But in the statement that the chairman of the Parliament Committee has released, he has actually rendered an apology, describing this as an oversight. Wow. And is asking the speaker that necessary corrections should be made to the data in Parliament. But Daryl, you ask yourself that how can this be described as an oversight?
Yeah, exactly my thinking. I'm just wondering how you can just miss this critical information, knowing that it comes from the Bank of Ghana.
And Daryl, they also in that statement went further to try and link that when you look at the net reserves, And when you want to look at these reserves, Daryl, it's done in a way that there's the hard currency or there's a currency that you can easily get access to, and others that are locked in other reserves and all those things. So let's break this thing down. You open a bank account. There's one that you can go and withdraw, or minimum deposits. Let me just try to do that analogy. So if you go by the Bank of Ghana numbers, it means that with this reserves, there are some that the Bank of Ghana can easily withdraw in terms of liquid cash. Right. And that is the 3.58 billion Ghana cedis. But often when we report on these numbers, unless there are people who want to push further, we would always want to quote the gross numbers. So do you want to play on that one right now that, oh, the net reserves? Because we all want to look at the whole number figure, just like inflation. We want to look at the national numbers. How many times do we make a lot of noise, quote, about the month-to-month numbers? Or when people want to push further that, listen, how much can the Bank of Ghana access right now, being in that liquid cash, quote, that is the 3.5 billion, which the Finance Committee itself, in the amended statement, has said that is what they got from the Bank of Ghana. But again, a lot of questions are coming up.
Lots of questions. Hopefully we can get some answers. George, stand by from Kwawu Asante, our parliamentary correspondent, because as reported, the chairman of the Finance Committee tried to clarify this in the House today, but the minority not buying it quite. Kwawu, what's your report from there?
So, Daryl, what I can report now is this correction has not been effected because the minority would simply not accept that. Indeed, when Finance Committee Chairman Kwawu made the correction on the floor, he sought to explain that this, just like George has said, and I'm quoting his words, an unfortunate oversight. It was a mistake that he deeply regrets, and that the House should amend the records. But his committee ranking member, Dr. Kesela Tufosin, was the first to disagree with him. He started by saying that in terms of procedure, you cannot amend a committee's report by a mere statement. And so the Finance Committee chair was misplaced in what he was doing. And so he went on to also say that this specific information about Ghana's gross or net domestic international reserves is an information that was provided by the finance minister when he appeared before them in terms of justifying why the Finance Committee should approve this report. Indeed, the minority contend that the only reason why they passed this arrangement is because they were alarmed that if the country's gross international reserves was at this low, then the country was heading the path of Sri Lanka and the likes. And they did not want that. And so they moved to accept the $750 million arrangement and approved it. And so if you are saying that this is not the situation, then indeed you have misled us or you have lied to us, and then bring back the report and let's now take a new decision on it. So they gave that option to the majority also. Indeed, majority leadership came in. We first heard from Afenyo Markin, who said that this was a mistake. He tried to appeal to the members on the minority side to just accept that this was a mistake so that the correction can be effected. The minority still would not accept this. Before the majority leader himself, or Chairman Sabosu, came in and actually admitted that it was a bit problematic that the report of the committee will be amended with a statement, and that in terms of procedure, this was not done. And so they could not go ahead with the decision. So the decision that went down is that the House will stand our decision and wait for the finance minister himself to come to the House next week. What I'm sensing is this is a strategy because the finance minister will present the mid-year budget review, and that budget review, he will seek to present what is a true picture of the international reserves, which will be captured in the official parliamentary records. And so that Kwawu will not even need to do this correction indeed. So the chatter in the House is that this is something that sent really bad signals to investors, that it was very important that the Finance Committee Chair Kwawu come in to make this correction. But what we can report is that the minority did not allow this correction to be done. And so as we speak, the Finance Committee report that stated that international reserves still stands around $3 billion is what is reflected in official parliamentary records.
And Kwawu, I'll jump in on your last point to do with the impact on the markets, because as George was indicating, investors are already reacting to this. We've seen that this impact on the city's performance. And so I'd like to just get your reaction, George, to this. Now, we are going to wait a few more days before the correction is effected. What does that how does that further impact the markets?
Well, Daryl, what we're also picking up is that just after the finance, that is the IMF team left, the Bank of Ghana did engage the markets when it comes to the rating agencies and those institutional banks that matter. So in terms of the market information, they have the latest update with respect to our true position. So the reaction hasn't been that bad, even though we have seen some shocks based on data that we are seeing with respect to how the city performed just from this morning, actually. So we've had some shocks, but that shocks have been maybe short-lived because those institutional investors who would move the market with some transactions know the true situation on the ground with respect to our international reserves. And as I tried to explain earlier on, Daryl, that unless you want to scrutinize the numbers, in terms of the headline data that we always report, we always work with the gross international reserves. So trying to play on words or play with words,
an oversight, an unfortunate mistake.
It leaves a lot of questions.
Yeah, sorry, George. And quickly, if you're still there, just to jump in again on this other point, to do with the fact that this is also politics at play. We saw this week the majority wanted to pass aspects of the $1 billion syndicated loan. So there's talk that this could have just been part of the game to get their need of the syndicated loan passed.
George makes a very important point about the Bank of Ghana having already relayed what a true state of the economy to investors. But Isaac Adongo actually held a press conference with the ranking member, Kizola Tofosin, just a while ago, where they actually allege that this is something that reveals that the government is seeking to misinform the public, that indeed they are cooking the figures. That is what they say, and that they presented some other figures to the international community, presented some figures to the finance committee, and that this mistake actually reveals what the true state of the economy is, and that this was a Freudian slip, so to say. So that is what they are saying, and probably will send some bad signals to the investor community. But also in terms of what exactly the political end game is, we know that when this loan agreement came before Parliament, it did not come with a list of projects. Indeed, what the minorities suggested or thought at the time was that government just needed some cash to shore up external reserves and also use to pay salaries and also pay debts and meet its international debt obligation. And that later, government presented some 11 projects that they thought this was going to finance. But if you look at the Finance Committee report, they list the 11 projects and the amounts that is going to invest, that they are going to use this amount to invest in. So it actually eats up all the $750 million. But then at the same time, the finance minister made a committee and explained to them that if you don't pass this arrangement for us, our gross domestic reserves is just going to be depleted, and also that the country is going to go bankrupt. What Adongo and Co are saying is that you cannot use the $750 million for two things. You cannot use it for these projects and still use it to show your international reserves and other things. And so it's either the finance ministry's road projects that they presented is just a ruse to get them to approve the deal so that they will use the money for other things. And so there's a lot of political context and political arguments that the minority have been making about this that is going to go on for a long time, even as we expect that the other $250 million component of the deal would either be taken today or next week, because the House is set to go on break next week, Thursday. If that is not taken, when would that be taken? Such a big chatter in the House.
One last question before you go. So the budget presentation is still going to be on Monday?
Indeed, Monday. And the indication we had in the previous weeks, and George had done some excellent reporting on that, that the government did not expect to ask Parliament for more money. Indeed, if you look at the business statement that was presented in the House today, it actually corrects that to say that, well, initially we were not expecting to take more money from Parliament, but government now says that it will take. Let me quote some portions from the business statement that was just presented. It says, upon further consultation with the minister responsible for finance, a firm indication has now been given in respect of a presentation to the House of a supplementary estimate alongside the media review of the budget statement. So earlier, the information we had was that government was just going to present the media budget review and not ask the parliament for more money. But this business statement now says that the finance minister will ask for supplementary estimate to finance the 2022 budget.
Thank you very much, Kwawu Asante, for that update. I asked because we're getting indication, George, that the cabinet was going to meet today and possibly shift the date for the presentation. But as it is right now, it's going to happen on Monday. I saw you nod a lot to the points that Kwawu was making. You wanted to add something.
The bit about the true state of our economy, and Daryl, if you should go back to the April data, everybody knows, and who reports on our debt now in terms of our reserves, it is the Bank of Ghana. Even if you do the extrapolations, you would know that there was a problem with the statement made in Parliament. There wasn't any timelines to it, there wasn't any data to it, as in this is the data and all those. So there were questions there. But in terms of whether this will impact on our reserves, when we even go for the cocoa loan syndication or these international transactions, the money will first hit the Bank of Ghana. And when government makes a request for it, it's given cities. So indirectly, most of these loans that we go for would go a long way to impact on our international reserves, because when government wants to pay for that Ofankor Road amendment or portions being upgraded, they're going to use Ghana cities to pay these contractors. So these monies indirectly would impact on our gross international reserves, because when the drawdowns are made, it's not made in dollars, it's made in Ghana cedis. And the Bank of Ghana will then look in its votes and give a Ghana cedi equivalent to the Ministry of Finance or to the Ministry of Roads. So indirectly, this money is going to impact on our international reserves.
All right, George Afe, thanks very much for coming in studio to give us that new reporting from the documents we've cited from the Bank of Ghana, which indicates that our reserves are actually around 7 billion and not 3 billion as stated by the Finance Committee of Parliament, the Finance Committee's report. But I want to play for you Kwawu Ashante's submissions before Parliament this morning. Take a listen.
Opened. Those of you, maybe you would desire to be a teacher. You are not aware that it's the most honorable job on earth to be a teacher. But when you ask any student,
House, just making that clarity on international reserves, but would get that video to you once you're able to get the sound to it. But let's turn to other news for you this afternoon. About 3 acres of palm plantation have been destroyed by some illegal miners at Amakum in the Ano Northeast district of the Ashanti region. Presently, the topsoil of the farmland has been removed in preparation for mining. Farmers fear this may continue if urgent steps are not taken to halt the situation. Nana Ochima visited the affected farm and filed this report.
Few months ago, a community mining site was launched to offer opportunities for the youth in the area interested in small-scale mining. At least 5,000 people who mined indiscriminately without license were expected to be employed here. Nonetheless, some of the miners have refused to conform to the new order by turning to farmlands to cause distraction. The palm plantation at Amakum near Mankanso is about a mile wide. Nana Kwawu Asante, who started the plantation 5 years ago, has invested over 2.5 million cedis in the process of producing fruits.
Assassino, more than 1 mile. 5 years.
The farm stretches over a mile. At least 2.5 million was invested.
They almost say, this is about 3 acres.
They entered the farm without my consent and destroyed the palm trees. They must pay for every distraction.
With 2 excavators, the illegal miners have destroyed several palm trees as they make a path to the area designated for the mining. The mining process is still at the early stage, with the palm trees covering the 3 acres uprooted. The topsoil is also removed, some used to block the path of a stream which runs through the farm. Farmer Ibrahim Adam wants the destruction halted to check possible expansion to other parts of the farm.
We were about harvesting the palm before they came to destroy it. We pray they are stopped so the rest of the farm will be saved.
The police moved in to halt the destruction after farmers reported the harm being done to their lands.
Right, we'll take you back to Parliament. Hopefully we can hear from the chairman of the Finance Committee of Parliament as he tried to clarify a report suggesting that the country's reserves were at 3 billion as of the end of June. As we have reported, it was a mistake. He's admitted it was a mistake and that we're currently at $7 billion. Take a listen.
Mr. Speaker, on that day, I laid a report on behalf of the Finance Committee before this House on the loan facility agreement between the government of Ghana and the African Export-Import Bank for a maximum of 750 million US dollars to finance capital and growth-related expenditures in the 2022 budget statement. In that report, Mr. Speaker, we reported that the international reserves of the Bank of Ghana had declined from 9 billion US dollars to 3 billion US dollars. Mr. Speaker, this was an error. It was an unfortunate oversight. According to the Bank of Ghana, the gross international reserves of the country was 9.7 billion US dollars at the close of December 2021. This declined to 7.68 billion US dollars at the close of June 2022. In terms of net international reserves, the country closed December 2021 with 6.08 billion US dollars. This position declined to 3.58 billion US dollars at the close of June 2022. Mr. Speaker, the error is regretted, and I request the clerk at table to ensure that all the records are accordingly corrected. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
And as we reported, the minority in Parliament are not buying this explanation just yet, so we'll see the drama unfold next week. But let's quickly dash to the Achimota Retail Center, where the first mini clinic of this year's edition of the EcoBank JoyNews Habitat Fair is underway. This is the 13th edition on the theme Where You Live Matters, designed to give various stakeholders the opportunity to explore the real estate market. My colleague, James Ishen, is there for us. Take it away, James. In a few minutes, we're going to hear from James Ishen. As you can see, he's right there at the Achimota.
We're here live at the Achimota Retail Center. So as I said earlier, this clinic is to provide opportunities for potential property home owners. So anything with respect to housing, this is where you need to be at this point in time. Let me engage some of the exhibitors so far. We've seen a lot of patrons coming around. Let me engage some of the patrons so far and know how the day has been so far. I have here one of the reps from DBS. I just want you to tell me how the journey has been so far since the morning. Are the patrons really showing up, and what products this time is DBS bringing on board?
Okay, yeah, a very good afternoon. Yeah, so far the turnout has been good, but we are hoping that we receive a lot more people. And we came with our roofing products, as you can see over here, we have our modern strip lock, or the MSL, and then we have the self-lock. So the modern strip lock covers a wider area, and then this one, as you can see, the self-lock covers a more. We also have the IBR and the IDT. Yes. And we have the rough and we have the smooth. Yes. We also have our Euro tiles available. And then this year we also came with pavement blocks and building blocks. So as you can see here, we have both the 6 inches and the 5 inches, both solid and hollow. And we also came with pavement blocks. Yes, we have the phased and non-phased. The phased has the colors included, yes. And then the non-phased. So we have the, as you can see, different shapes: triangular, square, rectangular, interlocking, random bells. We also have curb stones. Yes. So that is what we brought.
Well, is DBS this time coming with any discounts whatsoever?
Yes, we also have a 10%. We also have a 10% discount for the roofing products, and that's valid for 2 months. So once you come here, once you visit us, we'll give you a card.
One more reason you should be at the Achimota Retail Center this weekend: there are discounts to benefit from. That's the marketplace. Thanks for watching, everyone. More news on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. Enjoy your weekend.